want to
They
do?
they come from all sorts of things. As I said, the first thing I wrote was about my father. It was about my father and my mother. Not absolutely biographical. I added things, and it was prompted by one of his very shortest poems, far from his best, but if I can remember it, it's called Will They Mourn for Me? I wonder, will they mourn for me, accomplisher of just a wreath of words? Or will they shed slow tears for me as I shed drops from my unheard pen? Or will they merely place cold stone above my colder head, recording only, here lies a poet, dead? He wanted to be remembered for his poetry, and it was published in all sorts of journals and anthologies, but never as a collection. And so he's not remembered for his poetry. And I wanted him to be, so I wrote this novel, which I submitted to a few people, but rejection is a terrible thing, isn't it?
It is. Mm.
And when you get those things where we've read it and we liked it, but it's not quite what we're looking for. So I didn't pursue it. But just thoroughly enjoyed the process of writing. You describe it as lonely. I don't think writing's lonely. It's solitary, but you've got the company of all those characters that you're writing about. So for the second one, I thought, well, I've got to do something completely different, and I've got nothing to go on this time. I thought, there aren't a lot of people written about older people. So I wrote. I thought, I've got to write something about what I know, about someone who'd just retired, who hadn't had a very spectacular life, and I wanted to write a time slip story. So I did. It's called Small Change. I can talk about it more if you want to.
Please do.
I write very much for myself. I've got to, it's a bit like Terry Wogan. He said he always spoke to a listener, had one person in mind, and that's how I write, thinking that just one person is listening. I write for myself because I put all sorts of things in it that please me.
Yes.
That I think will probably go over the heads of the reader. I've got a little example to show you. For instance, this was a time slip story. If you write a time slip story, you've got to have some sort of portal or a wardrobe or a rabbit
just explain
hole.
to me what a time slip story is.
Just going back in the past into the future, science fiction really. And I wanted this to be, I was in the Motor Museum in Coventry, splendid place if you've never been. And they had an exhibition in there of the Second World War, and they had an Anderson shelter, and had the siren going off, and I felt as though I was back in the 40s. And I thought that could be my time portal. And I invented this doorway, and I put over the doorway, for instance, if I can just find it here. Are we not drawn onward, we few, drawn onward to new era? And I didn't expect the reader to look at that and think, oh, that's a palindrome, but just did it for my own fun. And
Sorry,
I do,
palindrome being
reads the same backwards.
Uh-huh.
And I had him going into this motor museum, and I wrote this little paragraph. It's not a very exciting paragraph, but I wonder if you can see what's going on in my head when I wrote it. Before going in, he asked the girl at the entrance desk, "Excuse me, but do you have any Beetles on show? Volkswagen Beetles?" "Sorry, sir, we don't really have foreign makes, but we did have a 1966 Lada on show to celebrate our twinning with Volgograd. But I'm afraid that's back in the USSR now. Pity, it only went back yesterday." "It's okay, it's just that we had a Beetle when I was just 17. "Local, are you?" "No, just a day tripper, I'm afraid." "I see. It's just that if you could get back easily, we're planning a special Drive My Car Day in the summer, where you request a car that has a special significance, and if possible, you can drive it up and down outside Millennium Place. Just make sure you don't miss the land speed record simulator today. The museum is free, but you do need a ticket to ride the simulator. Thanks again, you've been most helpful, Miss Martha." "Oh, right. Well, thank you, Martha, my dear. Have a good day." So, I presume some of you got the Beatles references.
Yes.
But it's just for my own fun.
Yeah, no, well, and under the people's as well, isn't it?
And the characters' names are like people like Lance Home, Master of Disguise, and Lance Home is an anagram of chameleon.
Ah.
I just enjoy playing around with words.
Yes. Yeah.
And if I have fun, other people might
Yes.
might not, but it doesn't detract from the story, I hope.
No, and you can make serious points through comedy or satire, can't you? You know, as you were saying.
Well,
about
my writing mostly has to have when I want to, and I can leave it alone for days, weeks, and then I can write frantically for hours on end. There's no rhyme nor reason to it.
That's what you were saying, Mark, wasn't
when
it?
I feel like doing it. When the muse takes me.
And then you'll get caught by it and go on for sometimes for a long.
And I certainly wouldn't stop when I got to a good bit.
Yeah, well, it's all different courses, isn't it? Yeah. Because it can be very. How do you keep yourself going then? Is it? You're writing one-act plays, but nevertheless, that's. I mean, roughly. Let's go to real basics here. When you're writing a one-act play, roughly how many pages is that? Do you aim for, or do you have a word count, or what do you do?
A one-act play, I think, should be around 25 minutes, half an hour. I've been to a lot of festivals that have put in 50-minute plays, and that's too long.
50.
Too long, yeah, too long for a one-act play. So that's about a 25-minute play is about 16 sides of A4. But I find writing one-act plays much easier than novels.
Sorry to be terribly basic, everybody, but I'm just exercising my own right to ask my own nosy questions. Do you have a font that you write in all the time, or do you have a line spacing? Or I mean, when you say 25,
I write in Times New Roman, is it? Because that's the default font of the computer.
I like Courier, you see, because that is a typewriting font.
Arial's,
Mark, what do you,
Arial's
have you got a
nice.
penchant?
I'm with you, Courier, yeah.
Yeah. Because it looks good on the page, and it looks like I haven't written it. Yeah. And what is the? Do you have a writing project that you're working on at the moment?
Yes, because nearly all my writing is character-driven rather than plot-driven. I'm not very good at plots. So I've set myself... and they're people you like, and go to new places. As you've said, places you never imagined you might go to. Times that you'd like to have been part of. I have a fascination with the First and Second World Wars, which is why I wrote the two one-act plays, but it also features in a couple of the novels I've written. Just the adventure of it and the achievement. And you've done it, and nobody can take that away from you. And if nobody ever reads it, so what?